Greetings, everyone. This is the Gardening Snail of Livingston, California, just trying to keep the community informed and local government as honest as possible. Any editorial content is my own as a resident of Livingston and does not represent the views and opinions of the City Council or the City of Livingston itself, and certainly does not represent any kind of legal advice. The decision to rename part or all of Campbell Blvd after Cesar Chavez has been shelved, and the discussion to rename any Livingston Street after Cesar Chavez has been postponed to a later date. Initially, the mayor had brought up renaming a street at the June 7, 2022 City Council meeting, stating there had been requests from the community and support from the UFW Foundation. Campbel Blvd came up as one of the possibilities for the change. Shortly after the June 7th meeting, a letter arrived at City Hall explaining that changing any part of Campbell Blvd to Cesar Chavez would be a bad idea because it would be erasing a part of Livingston's history. The staff report in the July 19th Council agenda packet asked for Council direction on what to do going forward. Continue with renaming Campbell Blvd, choose another street to rename, or symbolically designating part or all of a state as Cesar Chavez. At the council meeting, several residents spoke up in defense of leaving Campbell Blvd as is and explaining the significance of the person Campbell Blvd was named for. The council's final direction to staff was to see what other cities do when it comes to renaming streets in general, and maybe come up with a policy so council doesn't run into a similar kerfuffle in the future. If you want to see video of the residents' comments, it's up next in a few moments. If you like what I do here, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook. If you don't, well, thanks for hanging out this long anyway. And stick around if you do want to see that video.
Hi, my name's Ida Scola. I grew up on the corner of 4th and East Street. When I was a little girl, my dad was a policeman here. And I thought Mr. Campbell was a magician because when I would go out to talk to my dad when he came home for lunch, this voice would come over and he would call my name. He knew who I was and stuff. We grew up here. He was the person that you called if you needed help. His wife was wonderful. She had a great clothing shop in town. Their kids were good. I used to babysit for their grandkids. That's a family that's been in this town, has a lot of history. And to honor Mr. Campbell, or Jack, my dad called him, is wonderful. To take away the name of that road and change it would be horrible. There are many other roads you could name for Mr. Chavez. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
There goes my... Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for meeting with me today, City Manager. My name is Kathy Thompson Valdez. I grew up here on 5th Street. My brother still lives in our family home there. I am Jack Campbell's granddaughter, and I've reached out to several of you this week. I want to say that I appreciate you getting back to me, Council Member Soto and Mayor Aguilar and Council Member Moran. You returned the emails and we had phone calls, and I greatly appreciate that. I know that it's tough to be a public servant these days. I'm hearing that you're walking back the proposal to take our grandfather's name off of Campbell Street, and perhaps you're looking at other streets. We only found out about this proposal Saturday night, so we're still a little bit rocked by the fact that that would have come up as a proposal. My family just found out about the proposal at that was made at the June City Council meeting via a social media post. We were given no notice and no due process. A proposal was sent forth to name a street in honor of Cesar Chavez. There is absolutely no issue with that request. Cesar Chavez was a great civil rights leader and advocate. The issue our family has is that the street mentioned by the mayor and forwarded to City Council was named for our grandfather. His name was selected by a committee of Livingston residents, forwarded to City Council, voted on and approved to be honored with that street that was named for him. They did this to honor him, his history, and legacy in Livingston. Our family takes much pride in that. We don't feel this is respectful of our family. Would it make sense to erase or change or replace Alvarez Field, Arcalian Park, Winton Parkway, and other streets and facilities named in honor of Livingstonians? How do you think it would make those families feel? This would be a bad precedent to set. So we're here tonight. I've asked for a copy of city policy regarding the naming and renaming of streets. I'm hearing apparently that it does not exist. Are there no procedures or guidelines for this? And I would like to put forth that a list of streets named for Livingstonians that have already been put forth and voted on and awarded to deserving citizens be established, so that in the future, hopefully, they won't have to be in this position of feeling that they have to come and defend the family name. My grandfather is no longer alive to speak for himself. So we're here tonight, and we appreciate the fact that you're listening to us, and that you understand the historical significance of this. Mr. Moran, you said you're a teacher as well. So a teacher brings their tricks and their visual aids. So I don't know how long I have, and I'm sure my time's up, but I did bring all kinds of family history, because it's not just the Campbell name. My grandmother, Dorothy, that was spoke about having running the store downtown. She was a Mitchell. Have you heard of Helen June Mitchell, the librarian? The Mitchell family was one of the first families to settle out in the country in Livingston. Her grandfather's brother, David Chittister, was a settler of Livingston. And the Mitchell farm out there with the Chittisters was an alfalfa farm out on Vinewood and down in the Merced River Valley there, quite large. And I was told at one time it was one of the largest alfalfa operations in the state. And that's back probably in the early 1900s. My grandparents were married in, I think, 1935, moved to Main Street, and then you've heard, I think, testimony about what my grandfather did and the importance of that. We're all grateful for Livingston, for what Livingston gave us. It was a great place to grow up. You know, my first job was at the Livingston Farmers Association packing shed, packing those nectarines and peaches. My next job, I worked for you. I was a lifeguard at the Livingston City Pool. And my next job was working at the library, at the Livingston Library. I'm a teacher of about four decades, retired now. And the reason that I went into teaching was because of a Livingston High School teacher named Mr. Brown. And I think some of you may know him. And I told him thank you a million times because he inspired me to do that. The reason I became a librarian, also a school librarian, was because of that Livingston Library. And this town has a special place in our hearts. So thank you.
Would you be willing to share with the local museum, like some of that? Would you be willing to share some of that with the local museum if we connected with them?
Yes, I have, my Bob Thompson, my dad was on city council. I have his fire department, volunteer fire department shirt. I have his Rotary plaques. My mom volunteered at the Jack's daughter. My mom, Jacqueline Thompson, volunteered with the Friends of the Library. Was in Job's Daughters. I have a variety of different things reflective of our family. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Any other public comment for this item?
Hi, my name is Anna Lemus, and Jack Campbell was my great-grandfather. And I'm here tonight representing my grandparents, Tom and Joni Campbell. Tom was Jack's son. So I have a letter that they prepared and that I'll be reading tonight. It says, Dear Livingston City Council members, we're writing to you today to urge you to please not change the name of Campbell Blvd. Jack Campbell was my father. He was an honorable man with a contagious, positive attitude and outlook on life. Jack was the first police and fire dispatcher for the city of Livingston, a job that he held for 23 years from 1956 to 1979, operating from his home for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. During his last year with the department, he transferred down to the police station for an 8-hour shift, and the city soon realized that the job that Jack had been doing for over 23 years now required 3 more people to cover all 24 hours. He was also honored as Livingston's Man of the Year in 1984. When my father passed away in February of 1997, the city fairly quickly decided to name the old Highway 99 and connecting frontage road as Campbell Boulevard in honor of my father. And the city flags flew at half-staff to honor him after his death. Our family was and still is very honored and pleased to have a street named after Jack Campbell, and we are sure that you can find another street name to honor Cesar Chavez. Jack Campbell's legacy is an important piece of Livingston's history that needs to be preserved. Thank you, Tom and Joni Campbell. And then I brought tonight a little thing as well. This was his badge. It says Livingston Police Dispatcher, and it's the number 1 on the badge because he was the very first dispatcher for police and fire. And his name tag, and so thank you so much for listening tonight.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Russ Winton, 925 Chastanet Court. I had the pleasure of calling the greatest generation together to put the museum together when I was on the council. And I have the list of the charter members, and these are the members that voted on Jack Campbell to have that name designated on that new road that was going to be the frontage road. I approached the Historical Society and said, the council is wishing that you come up with as many names as you can of historical significance and a little summary of what they did. And Jack was in the top 3. I mean, growing up in Livingston in the 50s and the 60s, he was our 911 call. He was the dispatcher for the cops and the fire department. If we had problems, we called Jack. And Jack was on duty 24 hours a day. And when he wanted to vacation, someone had to come in and fill in for him. And he put a lot of hours in there. I think, 23 years doing that job? And he had an unfortunate accident where he was paralyzed, but he never let that stop him. He had a van that had controls with his hands, and he drove that van around town. And he was well respected and an excellent citizen of Livingston. You know, if you want to know about, you don't know Joe Swan. We have Swan Street. We have Hammett Street. Those are old-time people that were significant movers and shakers in Livingston. Kroll Street, for example, is not with us anymore. That's where the freeway went through with the Hammett Kroll building there. But do a little research, take a little time. And when I was on the council, we messed up big time. We messed up really big time because we thought we should just change 3rd Street to Main Street. We just did it automatically. Did we get feedback? Whoa, did we get feedback because addresses had to change. And so you want to go careful in this endeavor of picking out a street. My suggestion, the most important street in town is Main Street. Do what Turlock did. Everyone wanted to change Monte Vista to University Way. They compromised. They put Monte Vista Avenue up here. Right below, they put University Way underneath. It would look nice to say Main Street, no one's going to change their address, Cesar Chavez Way, right underneath. That would be a compromise. And that's a very important street, the most important street in town. I wish you'd consider that as a possibility. Anyway, I got to work with all these old people. Now I'm an old people, you know. And if you have any questions about what happened in the 80s and 90s in Livingston, come to me. I'd be glad to come down and talk to you. We can do history together and come up with solutions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Jackie?
So just so the council knows, I get to sit with the old guy in my office and go over a list of all of our streets that I got from admin. And it's actually going to be a part of our centennial. And if you live on a street, Olds Avenue, it's going to tell you who that street was named after. So we're in the works of putting something that will be a part of the museum as well as online, and then hopefully everybody can find out who's who. So
Awesome, Jackie. That's great. That works. Any other comments? Go ahead, sir.
You were saying, not Mike Torres, you were saying you're looking for directions. Now, were you talking about Campbell and Walnut? Now, which one were you going to change?
Now we're looking at possibly Walnut or B Street. Any ideas? And
Walnut
just
or
like
Campbell?
Mr. Winton stated, my suggestion is the same thing as his. Will be put a symbolic name to it. For example, like Merced did, or Turlock did, where it's the name of the street remains, just like underneath it, also known as Veterans Boulevard or Cesar, like Merced did, or University Way and Monte Vista. So something like that.
Well, yeah, because Walnut goes all the way to Winton, and I don't know what, you guys changed that one. It affects a lot of ranchers, and how we go again, we changed Main Street. And Campbell, there's no way you guys can change that name. Old Jack, I knew Jack. He was, like he says, he was paralyzed, but he drove around town. There's a lot of streets here, like Swan Street and Simpson Street. They were all people that were here years back, like Mrs. Eckelfield's. There's a lot of names that you can put names on streets. All I can say is you guys are too young to know the history of Livingston. So, now I don't know where you come up with Cesar Chavez. He's plastered all over California. And then I don't have anything against him or anything, but there's other names that we can pick. So I think you guys better do some homework before you guys start changing names. And the thing is that it just takes a quorum for you guys to change the name. Well, here's a quorum here tonight. Our quorum counts just as much as your quorum. You know, you guys take time out. I mean, I hate to say it, or, you know, talk this way, but we pay your wages to improve our town. And changing streets like changing shoes. I don't get it, especially when we've been here for years. You know? So, like I say, and then, like I say, if you guys send notices out on these people on these streets that you're going to try to change, half the people don't even know that this was coming up. You know, I'm sure it's their fault because they don't attend the council meetings, but and there's other ways to notify them too. Do your part. So, thank you much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments at this time? Anybody on the phone?
I have the emails.
Oh yeah, sorry. Monica, go ahead.
I'm going to read a few emails for the record. I received 2 emails from Kathy Valdez and also from Robert Anderson. I will be reading one, and the other 2 will have been provided to council together with all of the emails. Okay, for the first one is Pete Esquivias. Dear City of Livingston Council members, my name is Pete Esquivias. I grew up in Livingston, now living in Las Vegas, Nevada. Please reconsider renaming Jack Campbell Boulevard to Cesar Chavez. Jack had many years of history in the community and service to the city of Livingston. As a police and fire service, as a dispatcher, please reconsider maybe naming part of Main Street in the heart of the city, as people driving into the community will be able to see that the community supports the service of Cesar Chavez did for the farm workers of California and other communities. Thank you for your time to read my email. Livingston is my hometown and forever in my heart. Peter Esquivias. Good morning, City Manager. As a former resident of Livingston and still a frequent visitor, I am finding it very difficult to understand why you would like to diminish the legacy and memory of Jack Campbell. Why does it appear that his legacy has been singled out? Could it be that you are assuming Jack Campbell was a white male, non-Hispanic, or man of color, and overlooking the community service? Mr. Campbell provided the city of Livingston. This is, of course, is the definition of racism in practice. Do the right thing and do not change the name. Janie Ritchie McCaskill. Robert Anderson. Why would the city council target the removal of a historically significant street such as Campbell Blvd? This honor was given to Jack Campbell for his many years of service to the city of Livingston. His name was forwarded to a committee to be recognized for this. The committee selected his name from a list of suggestions for the street. City Council voted to name the street Campbell Blvd. Then a ceremony was held and a proclamation given to Jack. Why would this street designated now be removed and this honor taken back? There are other streets in town that are not named after residents who were recognized for their contribution to the history of Livingston. In addition, new streets will come online, yet to be named, that could be given new names that are being requested. How sad that this family was never informed that this might be happening and now has to possibly be stripped of their family legacy. Most of them still live in Livingston. Generations of Campbells, Mitchells, and Thompsons have gone through Livingston schools, worked in the community, and volunteered to help make Livingston great. Jack served as the only emergency dispatcher for Livingston for years, answering fire, police, doctor, and other calls 24 hours from his home to keep Livingston safe. He then transitioned to work at City Hall with employees helping him to get one of the first wheelchair vans in the state of California. His memory does not need to be disrespected by the removal of his designation. No family should have to be put in the position to witness this treatment of their ancestors' legacy or fight for their honor. What if it were your ancestors who had a street name after them and it was later being taken away? Will the Winton family, Kaji family, Kishi family, Swan family, Court family, etc. have to fight for the streets that were procedurally awarded to their fine family members who made Livingston their home? As we come upon celebration of the Livingston Centennial, we should choose to recognize the accomplishments of these citizens, not tear them down. Finally, other cities have procedures in place for naming streets or renaming streets. According to the city attorney, Livingston has no policy in place for this. Please enact a policy so that this does not happen in the future, and those requesting street names have a clear path to navigate. Respectfully, Robert Anderson. Kathy Valdez, it is wrong to take away any or all of a street name in honor of a city resident. Campbell Blvd was designated by City Council years ago to honor longtime Livingston resident Jack Campbell. This is deeply troubling that this honor would be taken away and his memory tarnished by the current mayor and council. Is Winton way next? This is hurtful and disrespectful to the legacy these people have contributed to their hometown of Livingston. Renee Thompson, please do not rename Campbell Blvd. Jeff Valdez, dear City Council, I am the great-grandson of Jack Campbell, who dedicated his life to helping out the community of Livingston. I am very disappointed in finding out what the mayor is looking to change the name of Campbell Blvd. There are many other streets or new streets that will be constructed in the future that can be named after the great leader Cesar Chavez. Our family was not just honored and given a boulevard named after my great-grandfather for no reason. He earned it. I hope you can dig a little deeper into the Livingston history to see how much of an impact Jack Campbell had on the people and community of Livingston. Please find another street to rename because Campbell Blvd has a great meaning and history behind the name. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Jeff Valdez. Next email's from Dustin Thompson. I am strongly opposed to the idea of renaming Campbell Boulevard. The Campbell name has a strong history in Livingston. My great-grandfather, Jack Campbell, was a dispatcher for the city of Livingston. Jack dispatched for Livingston Police and Fire. Jack was disabled and worked from his home. His wife, my great-grandmother, Dorothy Campbell, had a dress shop on what is now Main Street. I encourage the city council to select a different street to rename. And that is it.
Thank you, Monica. Appreciate it. So bring it back to council. Like I stated before, go ahead, Gabriel.
Good evening, City Council. Gabriel Salazar here. I guess for one, I'm here to keep or support the name of Campbell Street. Also, I want to thank the elder statesmen and women of Livingston for sharing their history and knowledge on our past. A lot of times, sometimes that knowledge is not passed on to the next generations or the next generation, so I appreciate that. I think the mayor mentioned that he had done it only as an example or as a reference, and he meant no disrespect to the family or to the name of this historic name in our town. So I think, like I said, based on today's discussion, I think it's important that, or it's great to see the discussion that we're having from this democratic exercise of people like expressing their opinion, but then also providing good examples or good ideas. Some of the ideas that I heard from the folks speaking tonight were, maybe we're not a Turlock, we're not a Merced, so maybe in the future, if we do want to rename a street, we have some sort of policy or program so we could do that, and maybe there's a committee that could make that decision together as a group. Number two, I heard someone talking about that there was, or I think it was Mr. Campbell or someone, I forget, sorry, Man of the Year in 1984. I mean, that's something cool that we could bring back to our community. Maybe we could have a Man of the Year and Woman of the Year, and it's done. Maybe it's also named after Mr. Campbell or someone who's dedicated, who's a big volunteer in our community and that gives back to our community. So there's just a couple of things that I just want to share, and just thank you again for people for sharing their experience and their love of our town. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So we'll bring it back to council.